The metallic tang of the ocean air, a relentless companion, clung to your clothes, your skin, even the back of your throat. It mingled with the acrid bite of diesel fumes and the faint, sweet decay of distant cargo. You moved through the cavernous expanse of the port of entry cargo inspection bay, a phantom amidst the giants of commerce. Stacks of containers, towering monoliths of corrugated steel, cast long, distorted shadows across the concrete floor, even beneath the harsh, unyielding glow of the overhead fluorescents. Each clang of a distant crane, each shudder of a forklift, vibrated through the soles of your worn boots, a constant, dull thrum against the silence of your own thoughts. The manifest, clutched in your other hand, blurred slightly, the print dancing on the page. You didn't need to read it, you knew the drill. Serial numbers, country of origin, declared contents, a tedious symphony of facts designed to prevent the ingress of anything truly untoward. Yet, the true untoward, the insidious rot, rarely arrived in a marked crate. It slipped in, unseen, unheard, much like the memory that always found a way to surface, unbidden, in the quiet moments. The journalist. You saw her face, framed by a shock of bright, defiant hair, her eyes alight with an unwavering conviction. The way he'd looked at you, Marcus Thorne, across the precinct desk all those years ago, brimming with a story he swore would shake the foundations. A story you'd dismissed, then regretted, then mourned. The case that had unraveled you, thread by painful thread, leaving behind only the frayed remnants of a man. The disgrace had been a slow, public flaying, leaving you bare and exposed, stripped of the badge, the reputation, the very purpose that had once defined you. Now, you moved crates. You scanned manifests. You were a sentinel of the mundane, guarding against forgotten sins in a world that had forgotten you. A sudden, sharp braking sound cut through the ambient drone, jarring you from the familiar ache of your past. A black sedan, too polished, too silent, glided to a halt just beyond the perimeter of your current inspection zone. It was out of place, a sleek predator among the grimy workhorses of the bay. Your hand instinctively tightened on the manifest, a useless defense. The driver's door opened, and a figure emerged. Tall, broad-shouldered, with the familiar, severe cut of a tailored suit. It was the captain. His face, etched with the years and the burdens of command, was a mask of unreadable intent. You hadn't seen him in. How long? Years. A lifetime. His presence here, in this forgotten corner of your forgotten life, was an anomaly, a rip in the fabric of your carefully constructed solitude. He walked towards you, his stride purposeful, each step echoing with an authority that still resonated, even in this new, diminished reality. You stood your ground, a stubborn anchor in the face of an unwelcome tide. The air around you thickened, charged with an unspoken tension, a history that pulsed between you like a live wire. Thorne, the captain's voice was a low growl, devoid of pleasantries, cutting through the cavernous space. It hadn't changed. It was the voice of command, of unwavering expectation. You offered no response, merely a slow, deliberate tilt of your head, your gaze unwavering, challenging him to state his purpose. There was nothing left for him to take. Still playing the long game, I see, he continued, his eyes sweeping over your work clothes, the stacks of cargo, the very air of your quiet desolation. A flicker of something, perhaps pity, perhaps contempt, crossed his features, quickly masked. Thought you'd have found a warmer corner to hide in. This corner suits me, you replied, your voice rougher than you remembered, and used a prolonged speech. What brings you to my corner, Captain? He stopped a few feet from you. Close enough for you to catch the scent of expensive cologne, a stark contrast to the port's pervasive odors. He didn't beat around the bush. It's about the journalist. The Sinclair case. The name hit you like a physical blow, an unexpected punch to the gut. Sinclair. Eleanor Sinclair. The brilliant, fiery investigative reporter whose murder had been dismissed as a random street crime, a tragedy that had spiraled into your professional ruin. Your breath hitched, an involuntary gasp that you quickly swallowed. End of story. The captain's lips curved into a thin, humorless line. That was the official story, Thorne. Not the truth. Not anymore. His gaze locked onto yours, sharp and unyielding. New information has surfaced. Information that suggests it was anything but random. Information that points to, well, let's just say, very high places. He paused, letting the implication hang in the heavy air, a silent accusation. Your mind raced, a whirlwind of fragmented memories, discarded theories, and the gnawing certainty that you had missed something crucial, all those years ago. He held it out, an offering, a challenge. They want you back on it. Unofficially, of course. No badge. No authority. Just you, and your particular set of instincts. Your eyes fixated on the file, the simple manila folder representing everything you had lost, and everything you had painstakingly tried to forget. Redemption. A dangerous word. A poison chalice. Why me, you asked, the question a raw rasp in your throat. I'm yesterday's news. A pariah. The captain's gaze hardened. Because you were there, Thorne. Because you were the only one who didn't let it go, not really. And because the new links. Sinclair was onto something huge. Something that could unravel the very fabric of this city, this country. He pushed the file closer, the weight of it, unseen, pressing down on you. It's a chance, Marcus. A chance to finish what you started. A chance to claw your way back from this. You looked at the file, then out at the endless stacks of cargo, the gates to the wider world. The salt in the air felt sharper, the diesel fumes more pungent. The distant wail of a ship's horn seemed to call to you, not away from, but deeper into the labyrinth. The tension in your chest was a living thing, a coiled spring. It was an inescapable summons. The abyss. The word had been a stone in your gut, a constant companion since the badge was ripped from your grasp. The distant moan of a ship's horn, a mournful cry from the vast, indifferent ocean, seemed to echo the emptiness within you. The file, heavy with the ghosts of a past you couldn't outrun, lay open on the corrugated metal surface of a nearby crate, a silent accusation. You looked from the faded case photos, the journalists' vacant eyes, the disarray of their apartment, to the endless rows of cargo, each box a sealed secret, a potential truth or lie. It was a place of arrival and departure, of things hidden and things revealed. And here, in this liminal space, you were being asked to choose. Marcus. The voice, raspy with years of shouting over sirens and the static of a police radio, belonged to the chief investigator. He stood a few paces away, his silhouette framed by the harsh, utilitarian glow of the bay lights, a man whose gaze had seen too much, understood too little. He didn't need to say more. The question hung unspoken between you, heavier than any crate. You ran a thumb over the cold, worn cover of the file. Marcus Thorne. The name felt foreign, a title you no longer deserved. Redemption. Not for glory, not for forgiveness, but for answers. You closed the file with a decisive snap. The sound cut through the industrial symphony of the bay. "Give me the rest," you said, your voice a low growl, rough from disuse. He produced a worn leather briefcase, its clasps dull with age, and handed it to you. Its weight was familiar, a burden you thought you'd shed forever. Back in your makeshift office, a cramped, forgotten corner of a disused warehouse overlooking the main dock, the silence was absolute, broken only by the rhythmic creak of the old wooden floorboards and the distant clang of metal on metal. The air was thick with the scent of dust and forgotten things. You spread the contents of the briefcase across the scarred surface of your desk, a thick stack of photocopied reports, grainy photographs, a small, sealed evidence bag containing a tarnished silver locket, and a USB drive. You plugged the drive into your old, sputtering laptop. The screen flickered to life, displaying a cascade of digital files, transcripts of interviews, forensic reports, the journalists' personal notes digitized from their apartment. Your eyes, trained to find the anomaly, the misplaced detail, scanned the digital pages. The initial investigation had concluded it was a robbery gone wrong, a random act of violence. But the journalist had been working on something big, something that threatened to unravel the city's elite. A name jumped out at you from an old interview transcript: Senator Elias Vance. At the time, a rising star, now the front-runner in the presidential race. It had been dismissed as unsubstantiated gossip, the desperate ramblings of a dead man's notes. But now, Vance's campaign slogan, emblazoned across every digital billboard, every news channel, echoed in your mind, forging the future, stone by stone. You scrolled further, your fingers flying across the trackpad. A photograph of the journalist's desk, taken by crime scene photographers. Amidst the chaos of papers and coffee mugs, a small, ornate stone paperweight sat near a half-finished article. It was a simple, polished riverstone, but etched into its surface was a unique symbol, a stylized, interlocking design resembling two intertwined verses, one inverted, forming a rough diamond shape. You minimized the file and opened a news browser. A recent campaign rally for Senator Vance. You zoomed in on the podium, on the backdrop. There it was, subtle, integrated into the campaign's official logo, the same interlocking verses, the diamond shape, sleek and modern, but unmistakably the same symbol. Stone by stone. The phrase, the symbol, it wasn't just a coincidence. Your gaze sharpened, the determined glint returning to your eyes. The random act of violence narrative began to fray, exposing the sinister threads beneath. This wasn't just about redemption anymore. It was about a truth buried deep, shielded by power and time, now clawing its way back to the surface. You had accepted the case, and the hunt had begun. The air vibrates with the distant rumble of gantry cranes and the shriek of metal on metal, a symphony of industry that once masked a different kind of violence. This is where it happened, where the brilliant journalist met their brutal end, years ago, under your watch. The ground beneath your worn boots is still rough asphalt, scarred by the passage of heavy machinery. You remember the slick sheen of rain that night, the frantic flashing of blue lights, the faces of uniformed officers etched with grim resolve. You remember the cold dread that settled in your gut, the certainty that you had missed something crucial, even as the official report closed the case as a random, tragic robbery. Now, the interlocking verses, the diamond shape, shimmer in your mind's eye, superimposed over the scene. Had it been there then, a silent witness you failed to see? You walk the perimeter, your gaze sweeping over every shadow, every forgotten corner. The massive steel doors of the inspection bay loom, their paint peeling like sunburnt skin. Inside, the air is cooler, heavy with the scent of diesel and stale cardboard. Your flashlight beam cuts through the gloom, dancing over crates marked with exotic destinations, customs forms tacked haphazardly to their sides. This place, once a scene of chaos and despair, now feels like a tomb, holding its secrets close. He's a former colleague, his uniform now replaced by the grease-stained overalls of a dock worker. His eyes, once sharp and full of ambition, are now guarded, weary. "Marcus Thorne," he says, his voice a low rasp. "Thick with the years. Didn't think I'd see you back here." "Some things refuse to stay buried," you reply, the words tasting like ash. "You were on the scene that night, weren't you? A long time ago. A bad night for everyone." He shifts his weight, his hands finding purchase on a nearby crate. "Why now, Marcus? What's stirring the ghosts?" "The ghosts are stirring themselves," you counter, stepping closer. That symbol, the interlocking versus, the diamond. Did you ever see it around? Anything like it, connected to the journalist? A muscle twitches in his jaw. He looks away, his eyes scanning the vast space as if searching for eavesdroppers. "Look, Marcus, that case was closed. Orders came down, high and fast. Random act. Not by you, not by anyone. Who gave the orders?" you press, your voice tight. He laughs, a dry, humorless sound. "You know how it works, Thorne. The higher up you go, the less you see the faces. Pity? In their depths. But there was something." Your breath catches. "What?" He hesitates, then reaches into a deep pocket of his overalls. His fingers fumble, producing a small, tarnished object. He presses it into your palm. Its head is oddly shaped, stylized. On its surface, almost worn smooth by time and handling, you can just discern the faint, unmistakable etching of the interlocking verses, nestled within a diamond. "Found it near the body," he murmurs, his eyes darting around once more. "Tucked under a loose floorboard, almost missed it. Didn't fit any lock on the scene. Command said it was probably just a personal trinket, irrelevant. I held on to it, for some reason. Never knew why." He shrugs, a gesture of resignation. "Now you're back. For your own good." You stand there, the brass key heavy in your hand, its cold metal a stark contrast to the sudden heat in your chest. The interlocking verses, the diamond, clear now beneath your thumb. This was no random act. This was a message, deliberately left, a breadcrumb from a journalist who knew they were in deep. They want this case to remain a forgotten footnote, a ghost never disturbed. And you, Marcus Thorne, are the one who finally heard it. The brass key, cool and precise in your palm, feels less like an object and more like a charged circuit. The interlocking verses, the diamond, they burn beneath your thumb, a brand on your consciousness. This isn't just a symbol, it's a signature, a brazen taunt. A memory stirs, a flicker from the dusty archives of your mind, a forgotten detail from the journalist's meticulously organized, yet ultimately baffling, files. You recall a recurring motif in the margins of her research, a subtle watermark on a handful of scanned documents, dismissed then as mere corporate branding. A stylized V embracing a faceted diamond, almost identical to the key's design. Back then, it meant nothing, lost in the noise of 1,000 leads. Now, it screams. You move to the worn desk, the glow of the screen illuminating the lines etched around your eyes. Fingers, stiff from disuse, dance across the keyboard. Viridian Diamond, you type, a name suddenly forming in your mind, pulled from the ether of forgotten case notes. The search results bloom, a digital tapestry weaving together seemingly disparate threads. Not just a company, but a conglomerate, Viridian Diamond Holdings. Its tendrils reach into global logistics, resource extraction, and surprisingly, political consulting. And there it is, stark and undeniable, a prominent photo of the presidential candidate, shaking hands with the CEO of Viridian Diamond Holdings, a man whose smile is too wide, his eyes too cold. The article details Viridian's substantial campaign contributions, its lobbying efforts, its influence undeniable. The journalist wasn't just chasing a story, he was unraveling a syndicate. A sharp jolt of adrenaline courses through you, a sensation both unwelcome and familiar. The pieces begin to snap together, forming a grim mosaic. The port. You grab your worn leather jacket, the weight of the key now a constant reminder against your skin. The air outside is a biting testament to the late hour, the city a muted hum around you. Your old sedan grumbles to life, protesting the sudden demand. You drive, the city lights blurring into streaks of color, your mind a whirlwind of possibilities and dangers. The air here is thick with the brine of the ocean, the metallic tang of shipping containers, and the acrid scent of diesel. Gulls cry overhead, their mournful calls echoing amidst the creak of cranes and the distant thrum of idling engines. Here, towering racks of containers stretch into the inky sky, bathed in the stark, industrial glow of floodlights. A lone security officer, a hulking figure in a stained uniform, sits slumped in a small booth, his gaze fixed on a flickering portable television. You approach him, your steps crunching on loose gravel. Evening, you offer, your voice raspy. I'm looking for a specific manifest. From about a decade back. Journalist was looking into it before you trail off, letting the implication hang. The officer squints at you, his eyes heavy with suspicion. Journalist? We don't keep old paper records here, pal. Everything's digital now. And even then, access is restricted. Who are you? You flash a faded, unofficial-looking ID you've kept since your badge was stripped. Marcus Thorne. I'm following up on an old missing persons case. Connected to a shipment that came through here. The officer's posture stiffens, his eyes narrowing. Viridian Diamond? They're big players. Top priority. What about them? His voice has lost its casual indifference, replaced by an edge of caution. Just trying to find out if there were any irregularities with their shipments around that time. Anything unusual? Specific containers, maybe. He shakes his head slowly. Look, I've been on this shift for 15 years. Viridian Diamond? Smooth as silk. No irregularities. Always by the book. You won't find anything here. He gestures vaguely to the towering containers. Now, if you don't have official clearance, I'm gonna have to ask you to leave. His dismissal is too quick, too absolute. His eyes dart nervously towards a specific row of containers, almost imperceptibly. Your gaze follows, snagging on a faded sticker affixed to the side of a large, weathered container. The interlocking versus, the diamond, barely visible beneath layers of grime. An older model, certainly, but undeniably Viridian. It's a ghost of a clue, a confirmation that they were indeed here, then and now. It hadn't been there when you arrived. A prickle of unease crawls up your spine. Your instincts, long dormant, flare to life. This isn't just a coincidence. You quicken your pace, a sudden urgency propelling you forward. The air crackles with an unspoken threat. The sedan's engine growls, coming to life, and its headlights blaze, momentarily blinding you. The car surges forward, not towards the exit, but directly at you. There's no time to think, only to react. You dive, a desperate lunge between two stacked containers, the roaring engine a hair's breadth from your back. The metallic clang of the sedan scraping against steel echoes through the bay, a violent symphony of near miss. You land hard on your shoulder, the impact jarring, but you're up in an instant, scrambling deeper into the labyrinth of cargo. The sedan brakes with a screech, its reverse lights flaring. You hear the slam of a door, heavy footsteps pounding on the asphalt. They're coming for you. Your breath hitches, lungs burning. You weave through the narrow canyons of containers, your heart a frantic drum against your ribs. The port, once a source of information, has become a deadly trap. You glimpse two figures, silhouetted against the floodlights, their movements purposeful, predatory. They know you're here. They know you're close. The game has begun, and you are undeniably the hunted. The key, still clutched tight in your hand, now feels like a burning coal, marking you as a target. Days before your fall. You drove to the precinct, a place that now felt alien, unwelcoming. The sergeant, a burly man named Miller who'd once been your partner, met you with a wary expression in a cramped, windowless office. He'd seen you coming, the news of your return already a ripple through the stagnant waters of the department. Thorne, he grunted, not bothering to rise. Heard you were back. What, cleaning up old messes now? His tone was laced with a resentment that felt as old as your disgrace. Ilara Vance. You stated, pushing the notebook across his desk, open to the incriminating page. What do you know about Stone's Haven? Miller's eyes narrowed. His gaze flicking from the notebook to your face. He leaned back, a deliberate act of distancing. Stone's Haven? That was just some old, abandoned facility out in the district. Nothing there. Just a derelict immigration holding place, used for overflow years ago. Closed down now. Or repurposed, you countered, your voice low. Ilara thought it was important. And she linked it to SG connections to migrant flow. Does SG mean anything to you? He scoffed. Sounds like crazy talk, Thorne. You know how Ilara was. Always chasing shadows. You should leave this alone. Some things are better left buried. He looked at you, a warning in his eyes that transcended mere professional advice. You come poking around, you stir up more than dust. You stir up trouble. Big trouble. What kind of trouble? You pressed. He leaned forward, his voice dropping to a near whisper. The kind that makes people disappear, Thorne. Not just journalists. the kind that makes careers end. You know that better than anyone." He glanced around the office, as if listening for unseen ears. "There are forces." The faded sticker, a ghost of a symbol, beckons you with its interlocking versus and diamond, a silent challenge etched into the rust-pocked steel of the container. The air in the port of entry cargo inspection bay hums with the distant thrum of engines, the clang of metal on metal, and the sharp scent of brine and diesel. It's a symphony of commerce, a sprawling, indifferent beast that hides secrets within its mundane rhythms. You recall the inspector's quick dismissal, the flicker of apprehension in his eyes as they skittered towards this very row. His nervousness was not for you, but for something he protected, something he feared. That fear is your key. The bay is a labyrinth of stacked steel behemoths, a temporary city of cargo from every corner of the globe. You melt into its shadows, a specter among the shadows of cranes and forklifts. The inspector, a man whose uniform hangs too loose on his frame, is now engaged in a desultory conversation with a gate guard, his back to your target. This is your window. Your footsteps are whispers on the gritty concrete as you approach the designated container. The symbol, once a mere curiosity, now pulses with a silent urgency. It isn't just a logo, it's a mark, a sigil of a deeper purpose. No obvious locks, no latches beyond the standard, heavy-duty clamps. But the sticker. It's a decoy, a distraction. Your gaze drifts lower, tracing the scene where the container meets the ground. There, almost imperceptible to the untrained eye, is a faint discoloration, a slight deviation in the rust pattern. A panel. Not a main door, but a hidden access point, designed to blend with the industrial grime. From your worn satchel, you retrieve a slim, hardened pry bar, a ghost of your old toolkit. The rhythmic clatter of a distant freight train provides a momentary cover for the soft groan of stressed metal as you apply pressure. The panel, no larger than a briefcase, yields with a muffled pop, swinging inward on unseen hinges. A gust of stale, conditioned air escapes, carrying a faint, metallic tang. Instead, a small, insulated compartment, meticulously crafted, reveals itself. Within it, nestled on a bed of dense foam, rests a single, ruggedized data drive. Your heart, a drum against your ribs, quickens its beat. This is it. You retrieve a compact, encrypted reader from your satchel, another relic from a life you thought was dead. The drive clicks into place. The screen flickers to life, bathed in the pale, blue glow of raw data. A login prompt. The interlocking versus and diamond symbol appear again, the organization's true calling card. You recall the journalist's cryptic notes, a half-finished sketch in a forgotten file, a series of numbers he'd scribbled next to a similar symbol. You input the sequence. Access granted. The files unfurl before you, a torrent of damning evidence. Not just a single document, but a meticulously organized dossier, a digital spiderweb of corruption. Shell corporations, offshore accounts, coded financial transfers, all meticulously detailed, all leading back to a central entity. The politician, whose polished smile now graces billboards across the city, is not merely a beneficiary but an architect. The files lay bare the quid pro quo, legislative favors, strategic appointments, and the systematic dismantling of regulatory oversight, all in exchange for Vanguard's ascent to unchecked power. Then, the name that makes your breath catch in your throat, Project Nightingale. The journalist's code name for his investigation, a detail only a handful of people knew. And next to it, a date. the date of his murder. The files detail his increasing proximity to the truth, his relentless pursuit of Vanguard's financial tentacles, and the direct order to neutralize him before he could expose the politician's involvement. It wasn't a random act of violence. It was an execution. A calculated silencing. The journalist wasn't just murdered, he was erased, his legacy twisted into a cautionary tale of a lone wolf running too far afield. And you, Marcus Thorne, you were a pawn in their game, your career sacrificed to cement their narrative, to bury the truth deeper. The anger, a dormant beast, awakens. Your past failure, the badge stripped, the reputation shredded, it was all part of their design. They didn't just want the journalist dead, they wanted his story buried, and you, the disgraced detective, served as the perfect cover. Every transaction, every communication, every name. The interlocking verses in diamond are more than just a symbol, they are the brand of a poison permeating the highest echelons. The truth, stark and undeniable. The weight of it presses down on you, heavy as the steel walls around you. You are no longer merely seeking redemption, you are holding a grenade, its pin pulled, ready to detonate a world built on lies. There is no turning back from this precipice. A distant siren wails, a rising crescendo that slices through the industrial drone. It's not for you, not yet. But it serves as a stark reminder. You are now a marked man, illuminated by the very truth you hold. The world will fight to keep this buried. They will come for you. The panel clicks back into place, disappearing into the container's weathered facade. Your escape must be swift, unseen. The path ahead is fraught with unseen dangers, a gauntlet of powerful enemies. But the ghost of the journalist, the memory of your own downfall, demands this. You will see this through. To the bitter end. Your fingers trace the edges of the emblem, a cold geometry beneath your touch. It feels ancient, yet starkly present, a sigil of power hidden in plain sight. This isn't just a shipping mark, it's a declaration. A tremor runs through the massive structure, a deep vibration that seems to resonate not from the ground, but from within your own chest. You pull back your hand, eyes scanning the cavernous space. Rows of stacked containers rise like monolithic sentinels, casting long, distorted shadows under the harsh fluorescent lights. The hum of the bay abruptly shifts, a high-pitched whine piercing the industrial symphony. It's an alarm. Not a fire alarm, but something more precise, more targeted. A security breach. Your breach. A voice, amplified and distorted, echoes from unseen speakers, containment protocol initiated. They know. They knew you were coming, or at least that someone was probing. The symbol, the journalist's last desperate clue, has led you directly into their snare. You spin, your gaze darting towards the container's heavy latch. No time to force it open. The noise of approaching footsteps, heavy and deliberate, grows louder, a rhythmic thud against the concrete floor. They carry compact, non-standard firearms, their movements too fluid for ordinary security personnel. These are not port authorities. These are the enforcers of the interlocking versus and diamond. A guttural shout. He's here. Sector Gamma 7. That's your sector. Your heart, a frantic drum against your ribs, urges flight. But your detective's instinct screams for one more look, one last piece of the puzzle before the net tightens. You glance back at the sticker, then at the container itself. It's unmarked beyond the symbol, no manifest number, no destination. An anomaly. It's a mobile vault. You take a desperate chance. With a surge of adrenaline, you scramble up the side of the container, finding purchase in the riveted seams and the rough texture of the paint. The metal groans under your weight. One beam dances across the spot where you stood moments ago. Above you, a voice barks, sharp and clear. Bullets rip through the air, whining as they ricochet off the steel, showering sparks. You flatten yourself on the container's roof, the vibrations rattling your bones. The metallic smell of gunpowder mixes with the diesel, a bitter cocktail. You crawl, inch by agonizing inch, towards the far end, hoping to drop down unseen into another aisle. Your fingers brush against a small, almost invisible panel on the roof, disguised as part of the container's ventilation system. It's too neat, too deliberate. Not standard. This is it. With a grunt, you pry it open. It hums faintly with an internal energy. It's not a weapon, nor a communication device. It's a data drive, custom built. It's surface etched with the same interlocking versus in diamond. This is the reveal/discovery, a hidden data cache, a physical manifestation of the conspiracy's digital heart. The thud of boots on the container beside you jolts you back to the present. They are scaling the stacks. You have seconds. You snatch the device, tucking it deep into your inner pocket, the cool metal a stark weight against your chest. The impact jars your teeth, but you roll, absorbing the fall, then scramble to your feet. You weave through the aisles, the shouts of your pursuers echoing behind you, growing fainter, then louder again. The air is thick with the scent of their pursuit, a primal hunt. You are no longer just investigating, you are hunted. The badge, the reputation, the past failures, all are meaningless now. You are simply prey. A forklift, left idling, offers a brief respite. You leap onto its chassis, ducking behind the driver's seat. The engine's low rumble masks your breathing. You see an exit, a loading bay door slowly opening to the pre-dawn grayness of the port. Freedom. Or, at least, the next stage of your flight. You make a break for it, dashing across the open concrete, the cold wind biting at your face. A final volley of shots rings out, chipping concrete near your heels. You don't look back. The taste of salt and fear is on your tongue. You emerge into the sprawling chaos of the port, a solitary figure against the vast, indifferent landscape of cranes and cargo ships. The data drive, a burning secret in your pocket, pulses with the weight of untold truths. You are a fugitive now, Marcus, stripped of everything but your wits and the relentless determination to expose the architects of the interlocking versus and diamond. The pursuit has heightened, and the game has irrevocably changed. Overhead, the skeletal arms of cranes swing, their cables groaning under the weight of colossal containers, each one a sealed mystery. But your gaze is fixed, unwavering, on your mystery. The sticker, a stylized serpent coiled around a fractured shield, adheres stubbornly to the cold steel of the container. It is the same symbol etched into the memory of your downfall, the mark you'd glimpsed on the periphery of the journalist's case files all those years ago. The container itself is a behemoth, industrial gray, anonymous amidst thousands, save for that single, insidious emblem. Its manifest number, as you suspected, is truncated, a deliberate erasure. No record, no trace. But the symbol itself is the most glaring entry. A chill, not of the bay's damp air but of escalating certainty, snakes through your veins. You move along the length of the container, your fingers tracing the rough seams, searching for an anomaly, a weakness. The metal hums with an inert power. This isn't a standard lock and seal job. The rivets are too clean, the welds too precise. This is custom, designed to keep secrets. Your mind, a finely honed instrument of deduction, sifts through the layers of the past. The journalist, brilliant and relentless, had been close to something. Something tied to this symbol, to these unseen hands manipulating power. The guards, in their crisp uniforms, patrol with a practiced lethargy, their eyes scanning for anything out of place. You are out of place, a ghost in the machine. You wait, the tension coiling tighter in your gut, until the shift change, until the precise moment when the old guards fade into the pre-dawn gloom and the new ones haven't quite settled into their routine. That brief, liminal space is your window. The lock, a heavy-duty, tamper-proof mechanism, yields with a series of soft clicks, a symphony of breaking secrecy. Every rustle of the wind, every distant horn, sounds like an alarm. The air inside is still, stale, carrying the faint scent of ozone and something metallic. Your small, tactical flashlight cuts a sharp beam through the gloom, dancing over the contents. Not crates of illicit goods, no obvious contraband. Instead, the container is filled with what appears to be discarded server racks, defunct network equipment, and coils of industrial cabling. A deliberate misdirection, designed to pass scrutiny. But your eye is drawn to a single anomaly. Tucked neatly behind a stack of rusted power supplies, nestled within a reinforced, hermetically sealed crate, is a smaller, sleeker unit. This isn't scrap. This is the heart of the matter. You wrestle the crate free, its surprising weight an indicator of its contents. A swift manipulation of its intricate clasps, and the lid hisses open. Adjacent to it, a slim, leather-bound ledger. Your fingers tremble as you open the ledger. The pages are filled with meticulously coded entries, cryptic alphanumeric sequences, and dates that span years. A quick scan reveals names, not full names, but coded identifiers you recognize from the journalist's incomplete notes, references to campaign funding, to specific operations, to a cleanup that occurred shortly after the journalist's disappearance. Loose end. Monitor. The data device is more complex. You connect your own secure interface, a relic from your disgraced days, and within moments, a torrent of encrypted data begins to flow. It's not just a ledger, it's a living archive. Communications logs, financial transfers, directives. The names are all there, the puppet masters and their strings, pulling apart the fabric of governance. And the journalist, her investigations closing in on this very network, her death a surgical strike to protect their burgeoning empire. The truth, raw and undeniable, unfurls before you. This isn't just proof, it's a confession, meticulously catalogued by the conspirators themselves. You have it all. Enough to bring down an empire. But handing this over to the authorities is a fool's errand. The poison reaches too deep. You need to use this as a weapon, to flush out the viper at the head of the serpent. You pull out your old, burner phone, its untraceable signal a lifeline in this murky world. You compose a message, terse and deliberate, to the number you'd painstakingly extracted from the journalist's fragmented files, a number linked to the politician's closest advisor. The truth is out. The journalist's ghost has spoken. I have the archive. Meet me at midnight, the old abandoned factory on the waterfront. Come alone, or the world hears it all before dawn. You hit send. The words hang in the silent air of the cargo bay, a gauntlet thrown. A tremor of anticipation, sharp and exhilarating, courses through you. You know you've just signed your own death warrant. You will face them. Because the journalist deserves justice, and the truth, finally, deserves to see the light. The hunt is over. The confrontation has begun. The last digit of the timestamp flickers, then holds. You hit send. A tremor of anticipation, sharp and exhilarating, courses through you, a cold current beneath your skin. You know you've just signed your own death warrant. You know this is a trap, a final desperate gamble to silence you for good. But the determination etched into your bones, forged in the fires of past failures, burns brighter than any fear. The air, thick with the scent of brine, diesel, and stale packaging, feels heavy, expectant. Each container, a silent monolith, seems to hold its breath. Then, a low hum begins, growing into the distinct whir of an electric motor. Atop its engine compartment sits a figure, poised and still. Behind it, 3 more figures, broad-shouldered and unyielding, advance with a measured, predatory gait. The forklift stops 10 yards from you, its motor cutting out with a soft sigh. The figure atop it dismounts with an unnerving grace. The light catches the sharp angles of their face, the calculating depth in their eyes. You know them, not by name, but by reputation, by the insidious web they've spun. Desperate and foolish. The 3 enforcers spread out, flanking the architect, forming an impenetrable arc. Their hands are empty, but the bulge beneath their jackets speaks volumes. You counter, your voice steady, echoing slightly in the vastness. Just finished. You gesture around the bay, at the silent containers. At the emptiness that feels so full. Finished putting the pieces together. Finished exposing your grand design. A faint, almost imperceptible smirk plays on the architect's lips. Exposing? To whom, Thorne? You send a desperate email to a dead address, perhaps? Or did you imagine a rescue party would descend from the heavens? The journalist wasn't a random target, was they, you press, ignoring the taunt. The architect's eyes narrow fractionally. They weren't just digging into the politicians' campaign finances. They were digging into your network. Your syndicate. The one that controls the flow of more than just votes. The one that controls information, influence, and lives. You take a step forward, the crunch of grit beneath your boot a stark sound. The journalist found the ledger, didn't they? They were about to break the story that would not only derail the election but expose the rot at the very core of our institutions. The architect's composure wavers for a moment, a flicker of something resembling irritation. A conspiracy theorist's fantasy, Marcus. No one would believe such an elaborate tale. They would if they saw the proof, you retort, your gaze unwavering. The journalist found the drop point. This very port. The shipments weren't just goods. They were conduits. The illicit profits, the laundered funds. And the politician, blinded by the promise of the highest office, was a willing pawn, turning a blind eye to the true nature of their benefactors. One of the enforcers shifts, a subtle movement, but you catch it. They even tried to reach out to you, didn't they? A desperate phone call, a cryptic message, just days before their unfortunate demise. A demise you were too broken to prevent. The words are a barb, meant to twist the knife of your past failure. But the truth has a way of rising. The journalist's final message, the one you thought you destroyed, wasn't just a dead end. It was a breadcrumb. A trail of digital dust leading straight to this port, straight to your operation, straight to you. You raise your hand, not to draw your weapon yet, but to point at a specific container, one with a faded shipping label partially torn away. That container, isn't it? The one the journalist tracked. The one with the false manifest, the one that held the final piece of the puzzle. The architect's eyes, once merely calculating, now blaze with dangerous light. The calm veneer shatters, revealing the venom beneath. You've said enough, Thorne, the architect hisses, the silk replaced by gravel. Far too much. With a sharp flick of their wrist, a silent command is issued. The three enforcers move in unison, drawing their weapons, the dull gleam of steel reflecting the fluorescent lights. You watch them, your breath held, your mind a whirlwind of tactics and desperate gambles. This isn't just a confrontation anymore. This is the fight for your life, and for the life of the truth you've just unveiled. The cargo bay, once an echo chamber for your words, now becomes an arena. You draw your own weapon, the cold metal of familiar weight, a promise of the struggle to come. The climax is here, and you are standing at its precipice, alone against the machinations of power, ready to fall or to finally find your redemption. The metallic tang of the air, sharp with the scent of ozone and the distant ocean, is the first thing to pierce the ringing in your ears. You are on your knees, one hand pressed to the rough concrete, the other still clutching the evidence drive, its cold plastic a stark anchor in the swirling aftermath. The three enforcers, who moments ago advanced with predator's grace, now lie scattered. One groans, a low, guttural sound, clutching a shoulder. Another is still, his weapon skittering across the floor to collide with a stacked crate. The third, a blur of motion you recall only as a desperate lunge, is pinned beneath a toppled pallet, a low growl escaping him as he struggles against the weight. It was a gamble, a desperate, last-second tactical shift that turned their momentum against them, using the very labyrinth of cargo containers as your shield and weapon. Your ribs ache, a dull throb that threatens to bloom into fire with each breath. A thin trickle of warmth traces a path down your temple, a souvenir from an unexpected impact. But you are alive. And the data, the true heart of this shadowed enterprise, is still in your grasp. From the periphery, a new sound cuts through the receding adrenaline sirens, a crescendo building outside the bay doors. This fight may be over, but the war for truth has just begun its public unveiling. It is the detective, his face grim, eyes sweeping the scene, assessing the damage, the fallen, and finally, you. He doesn't speak, but his gaze holds a silent question, a shared understanding of the precipice you have just navigated. Behind him, uniformed officers flood the bay, their footsteps echoing, their voices a sudden cacophony of commands and questions. You push yourself to your feet, the world tilting for a moment before righting itself. The evidence drive feels heavier now, burdened with the weight of revelation. You extend it towards the detective, a silent offering. He takes it, his fingers brushing yours, a fleeting contact that speaks volumes of the trust forged in the crucible of this hunt. It's all there, you rasp, your voice hoarse. The politician's ledger. The offshore accounts. The details of the cover-up for the journalist's murder. Everything. The detective nods, his jaw tight. We got the call. An anonymous tip about suspicious activity at the port. Perfect timing. He glances at the struggling enforcers. Looks like you held your own, Marcus. You offer a weak, humorless smile. Just barely. As the officers secure the scene, you watch the enforcers being cuffed, their earlier menace now replaced by a sullen defeat. The one pinned beneath the pallet is extricated, cursing under his breath, his eyes meeting yours with a venomous promise. You meet his gaze unflinchingly. The threat, you know, will not simply vanish with a pair of handcuffs. The organization's roots run deeper than these hired hands. You recount the desperate struggle, the names you overheard, the fleeting glimpses of faces that danced in the periphery of your memory. The detective listens, meticulously taking notes, his presence a steady anchor in the swirling aftermath. Later, as dawn begins to paint the sky with bruised purples and grays, you are escorted out into the cool morning air. The world outside the bay doors is already awake, buzzing with a different kind of energy. News vans, their satellite dishes pointing skyward like metallic sunflowers, line the perimeter. Reporters, a hungry pack, surge forward, their microphones thrust out, their questions a barrage. Marcus Thorne. Can you confirm their involvement? Are you back on the force, Detective Thorne? The questions hammer against you, each one a sharp echo of the public's insatiable hunger for truth, for scandal. You say nothing, your gaze fixed on the rising sun, its light harsh and unforgiving. The detective steps in front of you, a silent shield, and makes a brief, measured statement to the press, confirming arrests and an ongoing investigation. He avoids names, but the implication hangs heavy in the air. The adrenaline has finally receded, leaving behind an exhaustion that seeps into your bones. You stand by the window, watching the city awaken, its myriad lights twinkling like scattered diamonds. The news cycle has already begun to spin, your name, the politician's name, the journalist's name, all interwoven into a tapestry of scandal and revelation. A small, almost imperceptible tremor runs through your hand. You have done it. You have brought the truth to light. The journalist's ghost, perhaps, can finally rest. Your own reputation, once shattered, now begins to mend, piece by agonizing piece, but the cost. You think this ends with me, Thorne? You've only scratched the surface. The politician's arrest, the exposure of his crimes, is a victory, yes. But it feels like a single battle won in a much larger, unseen war. The redemption you sought, the cleansing of your past failures, feels less like a triumphant roar and more like a quiet, weary sigh. The weight of what you've unearthed, the sheer audacity of the power that sought to bury the truth, presses down on you. You've paid a price, Marcus. A piece of your former self, perhaps sacrificed in the pursuit of justice, leaving you hardened, perhaps even a little broken, but undeniably free. The path ahead remains shrouded, but for the first time in years, you feel the faintest stir of purpose, a new resolve forged in the crucible of your past. The fight, you realize, is far from over. The harsh light of the rising sun paints the world in stark, unforgiving hues, reflecting off the lenses of a dozen cameras, each click a tiny hammer blow against the fragile peace you feel building within. The detective's broad back is a fortress before you, his voice a low, steady murmur against the clamor of questions, a shield against the hungry pack. You stand silent, a statue carved from weary stone, but within, a new current stirs, not of triumph, but of quiet, hard-won clarity. The public's insatiable hunger for truth, for scandal, for a neatly packaged villain, still hums around you, a dissonant chord. Yet, their judgment, once a crushing weight, now feels distant, almost irrelevant. Your gaze, once fixed on the horizon, now turns inward, tracing the jagged edges of a journey finally nearing its end. The cacophony fades as the detective guides you away, the press left to dissect the scraps of his measured statement. The air here hums with the promise of secrets unveiled, thick with the scent of brine, diesel, and the lingering metallic tang of industrial might. Towering stacks of containers, painted in vibrant, faded hues, form a labyrinthine city, each box a potential vessel for illicit dreams or damning truths. This is where the final pieces of the puzzle clicked into place, where the meticulously constructed facade of the shadowy organization finally crumbled. The detective leads you past forklifts growling like caged beasts, past stevedores moving with practiced efficiency, their faces grim, their movements quick. He stops before a particular steel behemoth, its once pristine seal now broken, its heavy doors gaping wide like the maw of a sleeping leviathan. Inside, bathed in the stark, revealing glow of portable lamps, lies not the promised industrial components. A meticulously constructed labyrinth of false panels and hidden compartments. He was close, the detective says, his voice a low rumble that echoes in the vast space. Too close. He gestures towards a stack of retrieved items, encrypted servers, their data mirroring the intricate web of shell corporations the journalist had begun to untangle. There are also microfiches, so tiny they could be overlooked, containing scans of illicit financial ledgers, disguised as spare parts for heavy machinery. The journalist's notes, recovered from a forgotten digital archive, spoke of ghost shipments and invisible ledgers, all pointing to this very bay, this very method of clandestine transfer. Her meticulous handwriting, now projected onto a portable screen, names the politician, his involvement in the scheme to funnel untraceable assets and sensitive intelligence out of the country, using the port as his personal, silent conduit. You trace the outline of a discarded manifest with your finger, the rough paper a tangible link to the abstract evil you've pursued. The cold case, a shadow that clung to your every step, now feels like a weight finally lifted, not gone, but transformed into a monument to persistence. The politician's carefully crafted public image, now shattered, lies scattered like shards of glass on the concrete floor of this bay. The organization, their tendrils reaching into the highest echelons, now exposed, their network of influence ruptured. Her death, once a symbol of your failure, now becomes the catalyst for a semblance of justice. The public may never fully understand the intricate dance of corruption, the silent machinations of power, but you know the cost. You know the weight of the truth. The detective watches you, a silent acknowledgement passing between you, a respect forged in the crucible of shared purpose. He knows the sacrifices made, the personal demons wrestled into submission. Your badge may be a relic, a memory, a part of a life that feels impossibly distant, but the impulse to seek truth, to dismantle the carefully constructed facades of injustice, remains a burning ember within you. The air, heavy with the scent of salt and diesel, feels different now, not cleaner, perhaps, but clearer. The ghosts of your past, the journalist's unsolved murder, your own professional downfall, finally find a measure of rest. You are not whole, not entirely healed, but you are free from the crushing burden of what was. The path ahead stretches, undefined, yet no longer shrouded in the impenetrable fog of self-reproach.